Arkham Knight begins at the end. The end of a series. A promised end of the Batman. And the end of a trilogy of challenge runs. We don't talk about that one. We start our adventure in a peaceful Gotham City, following the death of the Joker 9 months ago. But of course, nothing lasts forever. Scarecrow's back and more terrifying than ever. Yeah, remember him from the first game? He's going to be haunting us through our journey here. The city evacuates as he threatens to spread his latest toxin through the whole city, passing through any clothes and masks available. And to carry on the legacy of gadgetry, we'll be posing the question, can you beat Batman Arkham Knight with gadgets only? Now, this game is long, and I mean really long, at least when compared to the other two titles. It's also a lot more cinematic, so some of our rules are going to need adjusting from previous entries to make this even remotely possible. As per the first two, we won't be executing any unarmed strikes that we don't have to. That being said, there are scripted sections of the game that require them, and I'll be mentioning them as they come. While I'll be avoiding most things that are labeled as takedowns, I'll be making use of explosive gel that's labeled as such once it's upgraded. It's still a gadget, so I'm going to use it. Additionally, there are also scripted takedowns much like there are scripted strikes. I'll mention those as well. Finally, there are also some places in which environmental takedowns become our only option. You'll see why later. They'll be the closest thing we have to a gadget available, but anyways. While many attacks will come my way, I won't be countering any that I don't have to. Unsurprisingly, yes, there are scripted counters as well. I understand that having 3 asterisks right out of the gate might cause some eyes to roll, but I want you to know that this run was still often hellish. Sometimes it was my fault, sometimes it was the game's fault, but I don't think I'd want to suffer through this again. We won't be using our capes to attack, no ifs, ands, or buts. There aren't any unavoidable scripted bits here to slow us down. On rule violation, the game will be reloaded to the last save. While this may be a given, this rule hurt me so badly to abide by. The controls aren't the tightest here, and on many occasions I started punching, kicking, or slapping someone around with my cape when I meant to do not those things. Otherwise, we'll be making use of some glitches showcased by the speedrunning community for any percent runs. But I'm not a speedrunner, and this isn't a guide on how to beat the game quickly. If it was, I think there'd be a problem with my own clear time. Anyways, with that done, let's get into it. Basic melee enemies will sometimes charge Batman, opening them up to be instantly finished with a quick battering. Easy enough to handle, just need to stall long enough for them to do it. Explosive gel is an instant KO when sprayed on the ground, but only once upgraded, and it doesn't help the quick variant. These will be our go-to for most of the game, since the game is even worse than Arkham City in terms of just having invisible walls to protect enemies from falling everywhere. We meet up with Jim Gordon, who believes that his daughter, Barbara, aka Oracle, has left the city. She has instead stayed behind to help us on our journey. We call in the Batmobile to take on military vehicles that try to kill us. For the purposes of this run, the Batmobile is a gadget, much like in the first game. We just have more control over it this time. Stopping the driver, we're required to interrogate him. Interrogation is not an attack, counter, or cape. It's kind of like a grab, but we're not using D&D rules, and therefore is not an attack. We use our Jelly Ring combo to break into a safe house. Didn't seem safe to me, there's a crazy guy throwing shit at everyone. We rescue Poison Ivy from Scarecrow. Turns out she's extremely resistant to the toxin. She was being held here after choosing not to join up with Scarecrow and the other supervillains, planning on staging this whole thing just to kill Batman. Don't I feel special? While bringing her back into the station, we find out that the vehicle enemies we'll be seeing are almost exclusively unmanned to help forget that Batman is firing a machine gun and tank through this whole game. We head over to the clock tower to examine a sample of Scarecrow's toxin, where Oracle chooses how for touching her stuff. But we leave with a good lead on how to track down our spooky boy. Just gotta leave, run an errand, be a dick to Robin.
I've got this under control.
And I tried some experimentation with this room, but there's no two ways about it. This requires a fear takedown. We basically move through the room at crazy speeds, punching the shit out of the poor bastards. Kinda spits in the face of what we're trying to do here, but no way around it. Furthermore, if we only take out one of them, we're left with no option other than sitting perfectly still and doing nothing to prevent them from killing the hostage. Good work, Batman! We find out Scarecrow is making his fear toxin in a place called Ace Chemicals. I'm not personally super familiar with the DC comics, but I swear every chemical-related problem in the world can always be traced back to Ace Chemicals. What the hell are they doing over there? We're greeted by the titular Arkham Knight, which absolutely had the chance to kill us. He's denied this kill by Scarecrow. Please keep in mind that literally everything after this moment that I ever accomplished could have been prevented in this single instance. Batman didn't even try to avoid this dude. There wasn't any cover or anything. I thought he was a strategist. Anyways, we're dealing with a hostage situation sitting on a massive bomb threat. I struggled on this way more than I should have. Stealth became a lot harder when hearing,
"Heads up, it's a plastic explosive! Heads up, it's a plastic explosive!"
yeah, the enemies are a little bit smarter this go around. They adapt a little bit better and will destroy your gel. Things become a heck of a lot easier when our number one gadget comes rolling in. It's not the most convenient thing in the world to use. I don't think that's really the point of challenge runs. But we can get shots off just over the railing on enemies. So if we lure them over far enough, we can take down anything we can see. We get threatened by the Knight, who then bails because my gadgets are better than his stupid non-camouflage camo. Yeah, I said it. What are you trying to blend into? You stick out like a sore thumb. Robin continues to try to help, and Batman is still a dick.
I can handle it, Robin. I've told you what you have to do. Now do it.
We move underground to a complicated fight for this run. The dudes in white that you might see are medics. They can revive up to 3 enemies, but honestly, that's not a huge deal. They'll run out of revives and allies eventually. It's the sword-wielding guys in black that were the worry. This isn't my first time seeing them, but it is the first time without the Batmobile. They can dodge pretty much any gadget I can use. They move more quickly and do an unfortunately high amount of damage. This room stumped me for a while. It made me consider whether or not I should use boxes, but then things got worse. In early testing, I found that the boxes that you can throw are one-hit kills on them, but I couldn't replicate it. I'm still not honestly sure what changed. I lost track of just how much time I spent in this one room, carefully dodging and trying anything and everything. If nothing else, this room taught me to use smoke grenades to cover my laying of explosives. Then I noticed something a bit odd. There was one less than there was before. While some of the tricks I'll be using this run were straight from the speedrunning community, this one wasn't. I couldn't find anybody talking about it online, which shouldn't come as a surprise, since it's probably the single least efficient way to deal with these guys in the entire game. But their jump attack is when they're most vulnerable to the explosive gel. They jump on their friend, then they jump off and attack. If they do this close enough to the gel and you time it just right, you can send them flying upward, high enough that the fall knocks them out. Works when they jump on walls too. So, just like that, we move on. Very educational room overall. The room before the bomb room is challenging, but we managed to catch up to Scarecrow.
Do you really think you've won? Fear makes you predictable. I am in complete control.
For a guy who no longer has lips due to a poo-soaked shoe, he sure is good at forming consonants. And he makes a direct threat against Oracle, using her legal name. He then slips away really easily. Bad move, Bats. Communication is lost with her, and we let him escape. From there, we move some chemicals that we presumably concocted specifically to reduce the blast, while Alfred tries to talk us out of it, in favor of evacuation. I know he means well, but at this point, where is he going to escape? The building is already currently exploding, and the room is filling with gas as they speak. Bruce makes his peace with his fate, says farewell to his faithful companion, and then...
Miss me?
We cut to Gordon making his way into a facility built by Batman in an old movie studio. It houses 4 people afflicted by the Joker's blood from the transfusions during the events of Arkham City. They were never cured and somehow survived 9 months despite Batman nearly dying in a single night. There's an old man that seems to be immune despite having in his blood the longest, a very violent young lady, a singer, and a strongman. For some reason, instead of being poisoned or undergoing the Titan transformation, they essentially become the Joker. All except the old man, the key to a cure for the other 4. Gordon asks about where the 5th infected person is, which Bruce says it will be there soon. Ominous. The Joker wakes us up to the whole facility continuing to explode, which we can both agree is a bad thing. Then we look one of our closest allies in the eye and tell him that his daughter was kidnapped. The Joker eggs us on to inform Gordon that it's our fault, since it really is Batman's fault that she's still in the city. After clearing out a bunch of RC tanks and non-explosion-proof foot soldiers, we bring Gordon inside to see where she was taken from. He continues to blame himself before Batman reveals to him that she was working with him the whole time. He takes this better than anyone could honestly expect. Feeling betrayed, he insists on saving her himself. It's not a logical action, but the poor guy's going through a lot right now. We find out that she was taken by the Arkham Knight. From here on out, Alfred will be trying to find his identity when he's not actively doing some harebrained something that Bruce came up with for him to do. We need to clear out this location, which proved to be problematic. Turns out some basic enemies are immune to explosive gel. Cool, great, thanks! I needed to make good use of the glass floor here to down these guys. They can shoot it, and I can accidentally throw things through it. If I do, then there will be an invisible wall preventing them from falling through, and I'll pretty quickly run out of ways to beat these guys. So this took a while of trial and error. Importantly though, this game takes place on Halloween, and it's rolling around relatively soon in the real world too, so I wanted to showcase this clip. For legal reasons I'm playing this without music, but just know that if I could, then these spooky scary skeletons would indeed be sending shivers down your spine. The Riddler shows up to be the most monotonous part of another Arkham game. He insists that we come to save Catwoman, which we are forced to oblige. After interrogating a guy for no real reason, we head inside to fight a bunch of robots. Yay! Guess what's effectively immune to most gadgets? If you guessed these robots, welcome to the You're Right Club! Congratulations! Grab a cookie. I waited for ages, but it didn't seem like Catwoman would take them out either, so we're going to take a step back to get something. We can't use gadgets inside the GCPD, but we can slide, and slide we do into the glass holding the gadget that we need for these guys and to complete the game. It's not optional. Now, it took a while for me to discover this, but you actually can KO these robots by launching one into another using the ret gun. You have to line it up just right, but they're not very threatening, and I've wasted a lot of time on this run already. Why not burn some more? Sunk cost what now? We need to do more of his missions to actually save her, but I'm kinda busy. Bye! After what feels like ages, we finally make it back to Oracle's trail. Batman uses magic to reconstruct a crash from basically nothing. After watching technology put together the panicked response of a young girl crawling for her life, we find that the Knight recaptured her, and she left us a method of continuing to track her. With some help from Lucius, our resident tech guy, we get back on our hunt, trailing Oracle underground. We're Dick to Robin. Ironically, this Robin is Tim, not Dick. Dick Grayson is now Nightwing.
She's working on something for me. It's important.
But she's safe, right?
Don't worry, Tim. Just keep working on that cure.
Tri-weave titanium-coated armor plate. Nice. Unless you know exactly where to shoot.
Why not the huge completely exposed part in the face region? We're then kicked by the problem child of the run, brutes. These guys are damn near immune to everything we've got to throw their way. Environmental kills are basically our only option for a lot of encounters. By this point in the run, I was still trying not to use environmental takedowns at all, but this is only technically possible one other way. In the meantime, we've got some more sword dudes, which get the blast and fall treatment, and another environmental takedown on a brute. We chase down what we think is the knight, only to find out that it's a random soldier with the same voice modulator. While Arkham City had us chasing constantly changing goals, this one just kind of has us running in circles going for the same thing, only to come up short all night. We've got a tough guy here who says he ain't talking. He then seems giddy talking about torturing a young girl who can't even fucking walk. Seriously, what the fuck? I know she's not a child, but she's young enough that she's basically a child, and I'm not okay with this on so many levels. We kinda sorta run over his head. God, I wanted that car to actually move forward. You're telling me that it has enough torque to rip cars in half, but not enough torque to make the world a better place? The bitch talks, but then has the audacity to claim to not know anything else. And like, the accelerator's right here. Might as well. It turns out the Penguin is in the gun-running business at the moment. He also supplied the safe houses for the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow. Conveniently, Nightwing has been hunting him down for a while now, so we work together to track him down and get some information.
You shouldn't have come here. Not tonight.
Bruce is a dick to Dick Grayson, and he gives us a new toy to play with. Definitely not a gun. It lets us track cars and break the enemy's toys. With the right upgrade, it can even destroy enemy tanks, though this has really limited use. Now the answer to this particular brute is an even bigger gun. Easy peasy. For our efforts, we get the best voice acting in the game.
No! It's Batman! Get the hell out of here!
For the record though, after exiting the clock tower where Jim gave us a well-deserved, but ultimately ineffective punch, you can skip straight here. You need to make sure you don't have the Season of Infamy DLC installed. Your game is running at 30 frames per second without VSync on, then you can zip through this door. Zipping is a lot easier this time around. This method just has us aiming, stop aiming, trying to stand up, then resuming aiming and throwing a gadget all in quick succession. Regardless of how we got here, we finally managed to track down Penguin, and I want to emphasize that it says interrogate, okay? That's not an attack. There's no way around this. We gently ask some questions, and these look like mandatory counters, but we can take the hits, no problem. Batman then automatically counters them, which sounds more like a cutscene to me. These last two, though, they will straight up shoot you, so counter them we must. We then get got. We'll continue to lay here indefinitely, it seems. You can still open your menus and whatnot, but you can't get up without doing it yourself. You'll just sit on no health with a continuous low health beep in your ear. I appreciate the save, Nightwing, but you couldn't get these guys off me? This room gives one more brute taken out by the environment. In my testing, it seems like it's maybe possible for Nightwing to take him out on his own, but if I'm being honest, I've already devoted an irresponsible amount of time to this run.
You need to let me help.
I had it under control. I told you, I need you back in Bloodhaven.
Bruce is a dick to Dick.
Please! What are you doing? Bats? Come on! Don't lock me in here. I'll do anything. Want your laundry done? I'll do it. Help out, Alfred. You got it. I wouldn't like to be that guy.
We've been haunted by visions of the Joker this whole time, and will continue to, but this was one of my favorite gags. We now have hacking capabilities, which we use to get inside an airship to find Stag. We can also use enemy drones against them, which is going to be massively helpful moving forward. We then get a marginally new enemy type that requires punching, and this one doesn't even have any environmental assistance near him. So to take a quick step to the side to explain, loading up the game from this place in the airship will set our default coordinates to said airships. In this game, zipping pulls you towards your default coordinates specifically, so we want those to be at the airships. To do this zip, we'll be getting wreck storage similar to how we did in City, but timing it is also easier this time around. You need to aim and shoot the wreck while sitting on a gargoyle for this zip. Just before Batman fires it though, you need to switch gadget. If you hear him fire it, you switched too late. Once you've swapped, the shot will go off and you'll have your new gadget equipped. Go to your desired location, in this case right here to make sure the airships are deloaded, and that way we have a clear shot. Then hold aim, pull out the wreck gun while still aiming, and quick fire. The gliding here is really specific, and I can't honestly explain this one super well, so good luck. A little walking later, and we're back on track. Anyway, so let's catch up with ourselves. The intended route has us taking another brute with an environmental takedown, saving Stag, then hallucinating. Scarecrow, really upped his game from the last time, huh? We then are forced to struggle for our lives. Not really, we can stay here indefinitely, but we do have to struggle if we ever want to do literally anything else. Remember though, this one doesn't count even as a scripted struggle, because this one doesn't have to happen. Stag is captured while we were doing whatever we were just doing. We perform more stealth, and go through a lot of busy work to destroy some turrets. There appears to be audio on these cameras though. It's faint, but there are microphones on the turret cams outside the ship. Wouldn't you normally hear just a shit ton of wind blowing it out nonstop? What do you even need to hear the turrets for? Seems poorly thought out. We get another room I need to carefully launch people in, even though this room doesn't technically count for anything. And just like that, we're finally back to where we just were. We deduced that Stag had a hand in helping Scarecrow, but later betrayed their deal. Because who isn't in on this shit show? We get another stealth section, this time with a minigunner. Big dudes that can't be hit with stealth takedowns. You know, it's a real loss for this run. I don't know how we're going to cope with an enemy that's immune to stealth attacks. Once again, they're not immune to being blown up. Explosive Joe notwithstanding, we just need a bigger boom. We almost save Stag, but while we're demanding answers, he gets fear toxined and has a breakdown. Soon after, we track down Scarecrow, but there are two of him. Whichever you pick is the wrong one, and we get blasted with more fear toxin. Then, we see Batman's eyes turned green, and we're voiced by Mark Hamill.
I'm amazing!
Things are working a bit differently. So it may look like I'm attacking these guys, but I'm not. I'm hitting the dodge button. I can't throw gadgets or do anything else, really. This is all dodging. The Joker might be attacking, but this definitely isn't that. I don't think this counts, but that's up for interpretation. Scarecrow gives us another monologue before we dodge him. The Joker's on our shoulders, then egg us on to do what we honestly probably should at this point. Scarecrow's responsible for how many deaths? But 'tis all a vision, and Scarecrow lives. He says he's not running away, and subsequently escapes while we sit and do nothing to stop him from running away. We have the most improbable missile dodge in the world from a guy who's not supposed to kill us yet. We then see Oracle die. I'm not gonna show this scene because it is genuinely really dark, and I think it's enough to say that she's gone. Bruce is hit hard, but he remembers that Ivy seems to be able to counter the toxin, and people still need him. So we head back to find her, while Scarecrow gives another speech about how he wants to ruin Batman's reputation, break his image and his legacy. He brings it up a lot throughout the game. It's to an obsessive degree. We get tougher enemy tanks that are definitely not a Star Wars reference.
The drone's rear exhaust port leads straight to the power core. One well-placed shot with the Batmobile's 60mm cannon should take it out.
Ivy talks about a legendary plant that can help us to counter Crane's toxin. She says it won't be enough though. Batman says we need another legendary plant. She says there aren't any others. To help the plant grow, we need to find the roots underground and essentially wake it up. Because that's how plants work. Don't you know anything about botany? The plant grows to be absolutely massive, and a single roof of dudes shoots at it. One of them is a brute, and the game won't let you use the Batmobile here. This still counts as a use of a gadget, right? This run is killing me! The park hardens though, protecting it from gunfire. That's not how hardness versus ballistics works, but we'll just ignore that.
I still haven't heard from Barbara.
Trust me, Robin. She's fine.
We lie to Robin's face because Bruce is a dick. We do some more busy work to get our car and jet onto and over this particular island. It starts out fine, but the second of the two rooftops we need to work on is guarded by a brute without any environmental help. Luckily, the speedrunning community didn't like this roof either, and this fight is totally optional. I spent ages trying to figure something out here, but you just need to go into detective mode, stand on the right spot, and yeah. From there you can use your grappling hook to get out. If and or when you mess it up though, you can just reload your last checkpoint to get out. Good thing talent is optional. Stealth BB! We try to use the Batmobile to blow up a big missile thing, but we're interrupted, and we're forced to do a fear takedown to exit the vent we're in. And no, you can't use the Batmobile here, I tried. That being said, we only need to take out one guy, so one is all we do. Also, the villain that is the Arkham Knight, but claims to know us better than anyone, doesn't think to look up. And one more environmental takedown to take out this brute. We head all the way back to the clock tower to be told that we don't know where Scarecrow or his device is, we don't know who the Arkham Knight is, and we need to go back to the movie studio to save Robin from Harley Quinn. We gain the ability to emulate people's voices in addition to our ability to copy people's fingerprints because Batman can make anything or have it made for him. How has this man not solved crime already? Now we use this to get inside since our security has apparently been changed to not accept our own voice anymore. Joker talks about the events of City, blaming us for his death. While he's obviously not real, this reflects a worry from Batman that he's lying to himself, that he would have just left Joker to die. We make our way in to help, and this part is technically skippable. I didn't skip it because of the state of my saves, backups, and how bothersome I found this one in particular to be at the time. I probably should have done it, but I'm gonna level with you. According to Steam, I spent about 45 hours on this run itself, not including the time to write the script, edit it, record it, edit the video, and make a thumbnail. This has been an undertaking to say the least, and me at the time used an environmental takedown to finish this fight. Enraged and blaming us for his death, she's discovered the Jokers that we have inside the studio, and is set on freeing them to replace the Joker-shaped hole in her heart. We're forced to perform a double takedown on this guy. It's kind of like using a gadget, since Batman uses all of his allies like tools anyway. The first room I went to had us taking out multiple minigunners, which is about as hard as luring them and then blowing up walls. Fun fact, the disruptor gun we got blows up guns when hit twice, but we can't use them on the miniguns because it will allegedly kill the user. Seems like an excuse to me. The disruptor is already really limited due to its ammo only going up to about 4 shots per encounter. They don't even recharge when you're in a lot of rooms. I don't know why it needed to be nerfed. We find Christina, the only female Joker, who will either slap the shit out of Robin if we don't counter her, afterwards we'd be required to counter her twice. To prevent this, we will instead counter her once. The Joker references Jason Todd, the previous Robin. Batman goes through a lot of Robins. Now this brute here is also skippable, but this place is a nightmare and I use the environment to take him out. I also skipped him, which you'll see shortly. What you're seeing here though is the intended path. We find Jason Todd alive, and this is another hallucination. Again, this is genuinely really dark, and I'll mention these scenes, but I don't intend on showing this man literally being tortured. Jason was captured by the Joker a long while back. Part of this torture includes the Joker showing him a picture of Batman with a new boy Wonder, and that he's already moved on after Jason was taken. We're brought out of our vision by Tim symbolically replacing Jason. Subtle. We then meet Albert, the strongman Joker. He's effectively immune to everything, including my smoke screen. This one took me a while to get right, but here we go. So the normal fight is supposed to look like this. Instead, we start the skip back right after we countered Christina. We need to sit on this ledge, where we start to quick throw an ice grenade, grapple, and then hold aim all in quick succession, and it'll send us through the floor, where we'll cancel the grapple and begin gliding. Timed correctly, you move really quickly and can rocket to your destination. You need to gain height for this maneuver, and I'll be honest, I couldn't get the game to cancel my grapples when I wanted to throughout my normal gameplay. Getting it to do it on demand at the perfect time when slipping through the floor was out of the question. If you can't get the timing because you suck, like I do, then you should know that you can actually gain height by gliding. You know, physics. It's hard to time, or at least it is for me, but by dive bombing and pulling up, you gain little bits of height that will eventually allow you to land where you need to go. You simply throw a batarang at Albert, which knocks him out of bounds, thus beating him, leave through the door, enter back in, which plays the cutscene, sans Albert in my case, beat up his companions, and you need to end out the fight as Robin. When the game pushes you back to playing as Batman, Robin will pick up Albert out of nothing, and job's a good one. After leaving the room and whatnot to verify Robin's existence, we can then do essentially the exact same thing that we just did to get to our next destination, but it's hardly necessary to do so. Stepping back through to the intended route, we find another Jason Todd torture scene where the audience is reminded of how genuinely dark the DC universe is. We're once again pulled out of it, with not replacement Robin, Tim Drake, showing up, and Batman mixing up his name with Jason's.
All the subtlety and nuance of a napalm enemy.
With the help of Old Man Henry, we input 0539 as the code to get into this room. The code is a reference to the first Batman comic coming out in May of 1939. We're then treated to a musical performance that I can't show you in all of its glory for copyright reasons, but it's worth a listen if you're a fan of the Joker as a villain, Mark Hamill as an actor, and especially if you're both. During this, you're expected to somehow focus on defusing bombs as Robin while the Joker steals the show. There's no way to skip this takedown, but Robin did it, so it maybe doesn't count. Debatable. Regardless, this is scripted, so a purist version of this run is screwed once again. We see Robin making a great decision of doing nothing to get out of the way of a woman holding a gun. I get that he doesn't take Harley seriously, but that is a gun. A pull of the trigger means no more Robin. Why are these characters so cocky when standing in front of firearms? They act like they have some sort of superpowers, but they really aren't that special in the wake of gun. Also, you have absolutely no choice but to pop out for a takedown here. If you don't, she'll shoot him after what feels like an eternity. Once again, a scripted takedown. Once again, using Robin to take her out because all of his friends are just... This leaves us with only a brute to handle, since we can use one to defeat the other with the right gun, or get lucky and Robin will take one out like he did here. Only sometimes though, and once there's just one enemy running around, he basically won't move or do anything to help. When moving to imprison Harley, we find out that Henry killed the other Jokers, reprogrammed our security, and holds us at gunpoint. When that doesn't work, he threatens Harley's life instead, which has Batman comply. Also, while he wipes blood across his face to mimic the Joker's smile, his hand is perfectly clean. He's apparently doing this because he absolutely is affected by the Joker's blood, and as he says, to purify the gene pool. He's moments from shooting Batman when he says, quote, "You're going to be spectacular," after which he continues purifying. Robin realizes as well who the last infected person is. The final cell is for Batman himself. He insists that Bruce put himself in the cell to keep everyone safe. Batman under the Joker's control would be too difficult to handle, it would be best for everyone, and he complies. Then Robin runs off to a life-or-death situation on his own, while we hear more about Jason Todd. The vision of Joker lets us out of our cell to show us how he was brainwashed into hating Batman more than anything. He's asked who Batman really is before being shot by the Joker for tattling, as he puts it. Months of torture to be shot to death. We're to assume that this whole thing is in Batman's head, since we're then met with Robin telling us to get into the cell. This time we have the counter indicator come upon approach. The conclusion that can be drawn is obvious, but we get into the cell anyways. The Joker lets us out. This is likely Batman considering and reconsidering his options on loop. The Joker insists that he had Bruce relive the story to emphasize that Robin would be in danger without Batman, and would be safer if he was locked away. All this is to say that the counter is optional, as Batman will eventually automatically throw him in the cell, cut off his comms, and go off on his own to handle the continuously stacking problems in this hellhole of the city. He also then lies straight to Alfred. The Joker then helpfully points out that he had Robin studying Henry looking for a cure, when Henry wasn't immune at all, meaning the research was all pointless. Ivy out of nowhere decides to attack the militia tanks, which means we need to help her out with that. Not like I had anything more pressing to take care of! We try to take Ivy back to GCDP to protect her from Scarecrow, but Alfred informs us that we finally have information on the whereabouts of the Cloudburst device that's set to spread toxins throughout the whole city. Just in time for it to go off. There's violence in the streets, the Batmobile's fried for some reason, the giant plant starts working as a massive vacuum to try to fix this mess. And dang, this game is pretty. Batman figures we can maybe figure out how to deal with the Cloudburst via Stag, so we decide only now to go back to the airship to find him. Realistically, I don't think destroying the Cloudburst should necessarily be the current priority, but nobody asked me. We're then met with this brute in the entrance of the airship, and we're gonna need to do something about that. So, once again, taking a step back, going all the way to before the city was flooded, we make our way onto the airship through a hole we left for ourselves last time. We set our coordinates and do basically the same thing that we did the last time we had to do an airship-based skip. Our flight path is a bit different though, but otherwise, we reload after going through a door, load in the map, realize I didn't wait long enough to get the second save, and reload again to fix it. After this, we'll be zipping out of the room, which is basically just what we've already covered. This will also break some things, which requires some skips later down the line, but that more or less falls outside of the scope of things because you've seen the duration of this video, I'm sure. The intended route has us going through the Brute into where Stag was being held, has us doing more stealth, and then hunting him down. He gives us what we need to fix the Batmobile, we throw him into a cage that he was using to hold apes that he was experimenting on, and leave him to his fate here. I don't think anyone is coming to give him food or water, and the militia people here were actively hunting him down to kill him, so if they ever wake up from me knocking them out, he's dead. Batman then plunges himself directly into the cloud of chemicals to repair the Batmobile. I understand that they conclude that a gas mask wouldn't make you immune, but surely going in without anything at all covering the breathing parts of your face is a bad idea. We inhale a lot in the process and get another counter coming our way. Luckily, actually countering is totally optional. He handles it on his own. We load the power cell into the spot that conveniently accepts exactly the same size, shape, and whatnot that we have right here. Good thing it didn't require actual modification of the Batmobile or we would have been screwed. Bruce is shaken by the Joker becoming stronger and using his improved hold on Batman's mind to jump scare him, and we're off in our gas-proof car. Sure, the new power cell somehow makes the car immune to the cloudburst, but the cabin is also immune to the gas. Did it flush it all out? If it could do that, why didn't Bruce just make a mask for the situation? He clearly has the tech. Ivy isn't helping much, and then tells us that there's another legendary plant beneath the city that could. Looks like Bats isn't the only liar in these parts. Alfred still can't figure out who the Arkham Knight is, and we end a really long driving and minor puzzle solving section with going above ground to do more car-based combat. I hear not everyone enjoyed these, but I think it was at least an okay way to break up the gameplay. Afterwards though, the Knight throws down the proverbial gauntlet. We're challenged to direct combat via tanks. He's basically driving a souped up version of the tougher tanks that we've been fighting. So we shoot him 4 times, which opens up his defenses to then shoot him a lot of times. Batman of course saves him from the whole thing blowing up, and also the fear toxin that they were both just standing in but seem unaffected by. He tries to strangle Batman, and I'm forced to punch him multiple times. No two ways about it, this fist is going in that face. I don't like this any more than you do, buddy. The Knight escapes due to ongoing hallucinations. Batman makes his way back to Ivy to check up on her, and she turns to dust. As far as I can tell, she was essentially giving her life to the plants in a very literal sense. The toxin was killing them for some reason. If nothing else, she managed to clear out the entire city of said toxin. We're then immediately treated to more of Scarecrow talking about destroying our reputation as a savior. Gordon then uses a SWAT frequency to request assistance from someone to get blueprints. He's reportedly tracked down Scarecrow and plans to kill him. Notably though, there isn't any SWAT operating in the city. He's not hard to track down, but he's been captured, and we have a whole hell of a lot of hoops to jump through to rescue him. By this point in the game, Scarecrow is giving speeches like this every other minute. Really hammering it in there, bud. We then immediately murder 4 men. Soon after, we find a guy wearing a vest that will kill him if he's knocked unconscious. We can't use our gadgets as a result, but we can operate his vest gadget. Notice how it specifically says disarm, not takedown. Clearly operating a gadget. If you're not convinced, this is skippable as well. If we go back to before going after Gordon, you can come to this part of the city and perform a similar skip as the movie studio. This will lead you underground where you need to grapple to get some height, cancel before going too high, fly up into a building which you can then grapple up higher into. You need to grapple even higher to load into the elevator shaft, drop back down to lower yourself into it without deloading it. You then drop and fall to land on a platform that despawns, fall further, then glide forward for a bit before landing into this tunnel. We landed here, which leads us into a chase with the Arkham Knight driving a massive drilling machine. Ugh. I wasn't built for these skips. We lead the Knight through a bunch of mines like you would in any other playthrough. We're then totally trapped. No, really, Batman is definitely gonna die this time, guys. He reveals that he's the person that told Crane about Barbara, but also reveals that he knows Batman's identity. He chose to keep that information to himself, though. We escaped, oh wow! We catch up to Gordon, who's being guarded by about 8 sword wielders, and I wanted to cry. I'm still proud of finding a unique solution, but I didn't want this. This would take ages to get through them all. This run already took me so fucking long. Luckily for my sanity, I found a generator down the escalator that blew up almost all of the enemies around me in one fell swoop. Why is the hacking tool so good in this game? Is it meant to be an apology for the one in the asylum? We're confronted by the Arkham Knight, who reveals himself to be Jason Todd, alive and... not well, but alive. He's reasonably pissed about being abandoned to be brainwashed for a long fucking time, but Bruce genuinely thought Jason was dead. But also I guess he just didn't try to bring Joker in that whole time that he was left alone to torture the kid. I don't know, seems like a weird move for someone who claims to be vengeance. Jason is immune to all of the gadgets they can throw at him, but I have a weird loophole here. I don't actually press anything other than grapple. I grapple up to the gargoyles he's on like any other gargoyle, and Batman does the rest. So that doesn't technically count. It was during this fight near the end of the game that I saw something. I thought it was a mistake at first, but I made a discovery. If you use the Batclaw on someone, dodge over them, and then throw quickfire batarangs, it throws multiple powered-up batarangs that can defeat enemies that are otherwise immune to blasts. I spent the whole game struggling. I used the environment to deal with almost everything. I spent around an hour on random-ass stealth sections because I ran out of walls to blow up. I struggled so hard, only to find out that the Batclaw that I wrote off at the beginning of the game is the strongest gadget available? from the bottom of my heart, I can't tell you how fucking stupid I felt realizing this. After what felt like slamming my head into a trash compactor, we see the most heart we've seen from Batman in this whole series. For such a cold character, I thought this moment hit pretty hard. Much like Gordon hitting the floor. There's also another brute here. Reloading a checkpoint gives us back the generator, but the brute is immune. I spent a while on this, but it turns out escalators down them instantly. I know those things are dangerous, but jeez. Also, why is the hacking tool so good in this game? It turns out the gadgets are great in Arkham Knight. I'm just an idiot. We try to apologize to Jim, but he doesn't want our apology. He not so subtly reveals that he knows who we are, and he remembers what happened with us as a kid. Jim then apologizes, which Batman seems to take as meaning he's sorry for getting upset earlier. He was actually sorry for his immediate betrayal at the top of the elevator. He shoots us off the roof, aiming for the thickest part of our armor, as foreshadowed earlier. Definitely dead, though. Oracle, who's tied to her wheelchair, is then pushed off of the roof, where she slips right out of it. What the hell were the ropes for if they came off that easily? Also, Batman tries to slow her down, but realistically doesn't provide much air resistance. He does, though, add mass upon landing. Sure, he doesn't make her fall faster, but the overall impact force exerted would be increased unless his split second of hang time negated all of that. Was it really a net gain for her? Of course she's fine, and thought Batman was killed by a single bullet to the chest despite the events of the entire fucking series. The new Batmobile comes in, and I thought I'd try shooting my way out. Mix things up a little.
You don't need to worry about us or feel responsible. We're fighting with you, not for you, okay?
Oracle reassures Batman, who's been concerned about allowing his friends and family to help due to a debilitating fear of them being harmed. He then turns around and lies to her.
Where's Tim? Is he okay?
I left him at the movie studios. He's fine.
We find out that the militia is fucking with Oracle stuff at the clock tower, and nobody does that but me. So we show them what for. More Batman is not a savior stuff, coupled with an all-out assault on the GCPD. Two vehicles come in pouring out a ton of enemies. It's going to take all of my knowledge and skills with gadgets to overcome this. While getting the generators back online, we down another brute with a fan. Atop this roof, there's a brute to take care of. Oracle-assisted takedowns are just environmental takedowns with her input, so I'll be ignoring those. Alternatively, there are pipes laying around. If you would have preferred he be defeated with steel to the face, then that likely also would have been possible. I did not do that. More brutes show up, because of course they do. Easy enough for one to deal with the other, and the last one can sleep forever after being cooked to death. How the hell is being burned by steam that quickly to unconsciousness not killing someone? Of course, Robin was captured, and it's 100% Batman's fault. In an attempt to save Robin and Jim, Batman chooses to turn himself over to Scarecrow, set to reveal his identity to the world. I first just need to give over all of my gadgets. You don't understand how literally I'm nothing without them. This is bullshit. I need them. Fuck, I need them. But we load ourselves into the back of a truck. During the ride, we're in a crash. We wander out to another case of Batman reliving his trauma. Then the Joker begins to kick us around. This is it. We have no gadgets. We have no way of fighting back. The cape can't even down enemies. This run had a lot of ums and maybes. There's an argument to be made that this is all in Batman's mind and therefore doesn't count, but it's poetic in a sense that this would be the thing to officially kill this run. In a weird sort of way, I'm at peace with it. Our rules are broken, and then Batman's is. We're forced to kill the Joker. At least in Batman's mind, a genuine intent to kill. And we're back in the truck, brought back to the old asylum to be exposed to the world. Jim is told to take off Batman's mask, but protests, which gets Robin shot. We're treated to the second best voice acting in the game.
You bastard!
Only for Bruce to declare that it's okay to do so. You couldn't have done that before Robin was shot? We're then injected with more fear toxin, and we live through the Joker's eyes for a while, where we kill a whole lot of people with the Joker-mobile. We third-person shoot our way into seeing the world from what it could be with Joker let loose and Bruce. Crane seems content, believing Batman's broken. He's half right. He injects what is now essentially the Joker with even more fear toxin. We then first-person shoot our way through the Joker's mind within Batman's mind. We get to see his greatest fears. He fears death. He fears being forgotten. And he fears both Batman and being abandoned by him. In the end, we regain control of Batman and are forced to punch the Joker into a cell where he's locked away. The conquering Batman, leaving behind a beaten and broken Joker. And an all but forgotten Bruce. Batman stares death in the face unfazed. Hey, it looks like Scarecrow took my advice from the first game. Little late though, since Jason Todd as Red Hood saves us. We inject Crane with the taste of his own medicine, and we see what the audience has already put together. His greatest fear is simply Batman. And then he gets punched. It's about time! And that's the end of the main story. The ending can only be reached after completing a bunch of side content, which I did manage with these statistics. You could definitely do more, but any percent skips break some things, and I can't honestly tell you which ones. Others become impossible due to limitations such as invulnerable enemies and weird spots. Some of the side content is really weird, but I digress. The true ending is reached by completing all of the side content, including all of the Riddler's puzzles, which, again, I can't qualify. But the true end has Batman leaving his mask behind and going home. Through this content, he says goodbye to his friends and family. He goes so far as to say to Catwoman that Gotham needs something more to protect it. To quote him, something worse. Alfred asks if he's sure he wants to go through with it, to which he says it's the only way to protect them. The home blows up, and we're left to assume he faked his death, but no way to confirm it as of yet. Oracle and Robin are set to get married. Jim is going to be mayor. Criminals no longer fear the Batman, but we're left on a scene of a bat-like vigilante using what appears to be fear gas to continue on the legacy. Be it Bruce or someone else, the legend lives on in the universe. Despite the fact that I did not beat Batman Arkham Knight with gadgets only. It was a hell of a run as far as time and effort went, but it's done, and I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope that in spite of the length, you'll consider joining me for any future outings. Either way though, until then, remember to stay safe, spread some kindness in the world, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.